mentioned, Jay's kind of the preliminaries at this point in the year mark, but Jarvan as well, removing that high octane style away from Jiejie.
What does BLG go for in their first pick? Really running the clock on that one, but it is going to be a Rumble first pick for Bin. Did manage to pick up a solo kill and a lot of lane pressure against his time or against Sobero over on IG, but Weibo snag up the Varus. This AD carry has been hotly contested so far in the LPL ever since he got buffed when he was already a top 3 AD carry in the league.
And we did see NIP flex this in the top lane, so I don't want to completely discredit the possibility of Zika going for this, but it is going to be paired up with, alongside the Azir. This gives you a lot of poke as Weibo right now, so I'm wondering what we're going to be seeing, particularly from support and top lane. I would imagine we'll be seeing space makers to try and make sure that these long-range champions can really dish out their damage without the threat of getting engaged onto. And it seems like BLG are just looking to try and get in that engage, but also minding that range as well, going for the Xin Zhao, another very aggressive early game jungler, but with that Crescent card, able to negate some of the damage of those long-range threats like Varus and Azir.
Knight definitely taking his time on what he wants as his matchup into this Azir. Something funny that I've noticed, Quacks, is that when I look back at Knight's stats overall, this is the one split where he's played Azir more than any other champion. I'm curious if this is just like a conscious decision between BLG, the coaching staff, and everyone on the team. Just like, hey, Knight, I know what the allegations say about your Azir play, but let's just get those reps in, brother. Let's get you ready by the time we get to the bigger international tournaments. But Xiaohu says, get back on your rise, bud. You know, I'm taking the Golden Emperor this time around. And with an Ambessa lock-in, this still leaves flexibility up in the air. We don't know if this Ambessa is going top. We don't know if it's going jungle.
And we don't know if the Varus is going top, if the Varus is going ADC. So a lot of question marks on where these, at least 2 out of 3 of the Weibo champions are currently going. But I do think that Ambessa right now, like that public execution can obviously draw a ton of pressure. And when you've got a pretty relatively short range comp like BLG does have, I think that being able to kind of provide that distraction, provide that disruption in team fights, which allows the Varus and the Azir to kind of free hit while everyone is scrambling to deal with the Ambessa publicly executing into multiple members, could be something that if Weibo can, you know, get Xiaohu and get this Varus ahead, that can be something really, really deadly later down the line. But for the side of BLG, I mean, I like what we see here so far, but I do think that they are missing a really solid go button. I don't think Equalizer is like the full-on engage tool that you want to be using, especially with how much disengage Weibo have just with the Azir and the Varus ultimates being able to kind of block you from getting too close to them.
And Weibo do not fear whatever engage option On is looking for, because they've just eliminated some AD carries from Viper. The Misfortune makes sense since the Wombo combo would have been quite deadly on top of an Equalizer, but Sivir, I think, is a good shout because that would have allowed Viper, the agency, to say, guys, I'm telling us when we're going in with On the Hunt. But the quick Nautilus ban as well as the Recon means that Weibo Gamer are going to have to look to other options for playmakers from the support role. And if they want to, Quacks, they could continue to shield where the Ambessa and the Varus is going, but then again, support counter pick is a little too important in modern day era of League of Legends, so could just be the Vi and all the excitement of a Varus top and an Ambessa jungle. It's gone.
And looking at Weibo's final pick here, I think both of these supports, by the way, have been Alistar merchants this season. It's their most played champions. I don't think Alistar is actually that bad here for Weibo, considering how short range they are and how much they just want to get in your face. I think that the disengage of something like a headbutt has a lot of value. BLG recognized this and immediately locked down 2 ranged champions that can really flex around that poke. I don't think they match things like the Azir and the Varus, but getting On put onto the Bard does allow him to play around that top side just a little bit more freely. So I'm interested to see when and where he leaves the laning phase to go, because I do think this champion has been really successful so far in 2026.
When we look at this matchup, I think we are watching potentially some of the best bot lane duos that we've had, and especially of recent memory. On and Viper obviously had a fantastic start. On in particular, reminding us why he was considered the best support in LPL for quite a period of time, especially during the BLG peak of 2024. But Erha, after a few stumbles in the first week or so, really started to glow. That one Alistar game that you mentioned was a moment of truth of holy moly, this guy's got it. And he can, if he can up the consistency factor on it, he can really contend with some of the best in this league. And considering that this is now his first year full-time starting as like a dedicated starter instead of coming in just as a sub, I think makes that Viper Elk matchup even more exciting and more important to set the stakes of who was worth it or who should be dignified in this 2v2 matchup.
For Weibo, I feel like it's just about keeping that momentum going, keeping the train running. Rafa, 3 wins series in a row so far, and they lost to BLG last time, so this will be a little bit of revenge for that. And like you said, Elk being able to prove that he is that guy. He doesn't need BLG in order to be that guy. And for BLG, I feel like a series win here, it's about reassurance a little bit, because a lot of people can kind of putting these guys in a shaky category.
Now let's see how it all unfolds. BLG and Weibo Gaming will take to Summoner's Rift here in Game 1. Let's do it.
I haven't heard so many cheers for LPL yet. I mean, this is the first Ascend game that
It's
I'm watching,
hype.
so it's hype. Yeah.
It's so hype, man. I think now that Weibo is in such a commanding spot in Group Ascend, not only the fans have shown up in greater force, but you're always going to have a lot of people cheering for BLG, especially when they're doing this well this early on. Already, Summoner Spell is being traded on the bot lane just for continued dominance and health bar advantage. It does lead to Viper and On getting the better end of the trade deal. We do have Jiejie on the bot side of the map, pathing towards the top side. So unless he decides to turn back around after Raptors and look for an early gank on bot with this Vi, unfortunately for Elk and Erha, they're going to be in a world of pain trying to sustain against the double range.
Yeah, Leona, not really the greatest champion in the world level 1 against double range, right? Until you get that Zenith Blade, it is very difficult for you to have that value, just because threatening any kind of a trade, it's gonna cost a lot of health, and you might not even get the stun off. So I think Weibo gonna be locked up for quite a while, as that's a very big achievement. 1,100 games for Xiaohu.
Still one of the remaining members of the LPL ever since his come up pre... Oh, I have to go back, way back. I mean, I know he was part of that original 2018 RNG lineup that was the first team ever to even potentially look for a golden road before it was even a concept in existence. So just, man, it adds even more to this matchup, how Weibo and BLG could be poised to really fight for the top. We know that BLG have already qualified for playoffs directly from Group Ascend, but Weibo Gaming want to join them, and they want to knock down BLG a peg. If Schwinn makes a gank on the bot side, the magical journey. Hello, old friend. Unfortunately, it's a gank against you, and Schwinn picks up first blood.
Yeah, there was no ward to be able to spot that out, and On, just with the magical journey, able to transport them over. You could see that, you know, Elk was considering trying to flash over the wall, but kind of understood that he was dead no matter what, so opts to save that summoner spell. I think the wiser choice for sure, just to avoid any repeat disasters for BLG, but they come out swinging here, and crucially, that Xin Zhao, an early game threat for BLG, getting the gold.
See how well BLG can leverage that advantage. Like we said in our pre-show leading up to this first game, BLG do not have an issue when it comes to building and creating early game leads. It's about maintaining them and not throwing them away. And unfortunately, a lot of BLG's slide in losses recently before being able to pick up their first series win with IG recently. If we look back at series like JDG or Top Esports, there were moments where they were ahead in that game, Quacks. They had the gold lead on their side. They were securely in advantage, and then it was just one fight too rushed, one fight not patient enough on the execution. So BLG, can they maintain this lead? Can they leverage this into a methodical snowball and give us a clean execution on the way out?
Part of that execution that you're talking about, Rafa, you know, lies in the positioning. And I think that Weibo have drafted a comp where you've got all of these pick tools in bot and jungle to be able to punish a lot of mispositions if BLG do end up stepping too far or, you know, putting a toe out of line. So BLG, they're going to get punished if they aren't able to maintain that lead, if they aren't being careful about where they step in these fights, as Elk has to be very careful where he steps.
Definitely thought that BLG were about to send another magical journey over the wall. They're going to do it anyway.
Oh.
Double cosmic binding lands, and Erha unfortunately assists in the play for BLG, giving Elk another death.
And Elk is really not off to a hot start here on, like you said, landing that stun with the Q. Jun is there to follow up, and it's another easy kill over to BLG. This time Viper getting a little bit of that gold. Jiejie not really able to run interference on this Vi. We talked about him in the pre-show as kind of this very high-octane jungler who wants to help out the bot lane, wants to get around the map. Jiejie actually does have the second highest KP of all junglers, so he really wants to make sure that he is the guy, you know, making plays as soon as possible and just being able to snowball that ahead. But so far, just on Vi, it's very difficult to do so without that ultimate, so no real rebuttal possible from the Weibo jungler to assist his struggling bot lane.
Yeah, he already committed to pathing towards the top side of the map. Wasn't able to find anything to leverage with Zika, who's still behind in CS against Spin's Rumble. And even against someone like Rise, who outside of Flash doesn't have any way to escape a Vault Breaker if you commit the Flash, you're not guaranteed necessarily any damage onto it unless you have a game plan of saying, hey, you know what? We're going to burn Flash on this timer, and then we're going to repeat with Cease and Desist or Emperor's Divide and guarantee the kill on the next visit. Now, bot lane, On and Erha trying to compete for vision control on the bot side. So far, On is winning on it. Elk manages to at least safely push out this wave, but considering that he has died twice, he's not super far behind in CS, so it's not the end of the world for Weibo Gaming at the moment.
And even though Elk is still holding on to that Flash, I mean, you have to be really careful whenever BLG have push in mid, because once Knight is freed up, you saw him even there, he was hovering around the bot side river, potentially ready to just Realm Warp there and punish Elk and Erha if they decided to walk up with that pushing wave. So just a lot of map awareness needing to be had here from Elk and Erha. So it's just going to limit, I think, what this Varus is capable of doing in the early game. And, you know, he is obviously a very big damage threat. I think we are going to be seeing the lethality. So it really puts emphasis on needing to have a solid early to mid game here for Elk. And so far, it's not a solid early game as Zika. Oh boy.
Well, Schwinn was left behind, didn't get to ride with the Uber. Zika manages to flash away, still has public execution if they want to re-engage under the tower. And, I don't know if BLG intended to leave the Xin Zhao behind, but Schwinn notices that Jiejie just uses Vault Breaker, forced to flash over the wall. He follows it up, sees him assist, buys some time. Zika, does he have public execution available? It's actually already been used, and On ensures that Jiejie goes down first, but it's traded back, and Zika gets the shutdown onto the Xin Zhao. Erha now trying to lock up On. There's no magical journey for him to escape. Zenith Blade will connect. Zika needs to be able to get in range to start using his abilities. Xiaohu, can he join over the wall? Yes, he can! The shifting sands will turn the tides of this game one.
Yeah, Xiaohu able to pick up another kill there, and Weibo getting some gold for themselves. Now Bin, though, looking for something, but Erha's in the area. I don't think you really have an angle here as Rumble, even with your heat meter getting very close to full. You have to be very, very sure that that burst damage is enough. Ambessa, definitely not to be trifled with. If you can't one-shot her, she can definitely turn the tides on you. So smartly doesn't go for that. Instead, is just going to push the wave as we do get a replay here. And I mean, I feel like Jiejie definitely, finally is a word that I would use. He is able to disengage a play, is able to catch BLG in the act, and is able to run interference on that dive, save Zika from his fate, but kind of puts himself in a precarious situation. Really good buffer on the knock-up there. Buys him a little bit more time, and maybe is what makes the difference for Zika being able to get that return kill.
Even nice for Xiaohu to roam on top to answer after Knight committed his timer to make that play happen in the first place. Still ends up being BLG favored since they are still ahead in gold, but not so much that it is creating a massive deficit, as we already saw that the first dragon was taken by BLG a few minutes ago. Second dragon is about to spawn, but Jiejie does manage to pick up the grubs. I'm assuming it was all three. Jiejie is going to go for extra camps on the top side to continue at least clawing back a gold advantage against Schwinn.
And I feel like Jiejie kind of has to do this because look at the bot side of the map, and BLG just have so much vision around that area, even in the jungle of Weibo. So I really feel like Weibo understand we have basically no business walking into that part of the map trying to look for aggressive plays. And they are going to just try and carve out this top side of the map. Schwinn, though, does at least catch Jiejie on the tail end of that invade. So they know that the Vi is on that top side. And again, I just feel like now it's BLG looking to stack those dragons. They should be able to do so with how much vision and how much control they have over that bot side of the map.
They're a little delayed on it, and Weibo Gaming are going to have time to at least contest mid-wave, try and move into the river. There is vision set up by BLG, but they're not in position to punish once Weibo try to move and clear out vision control. So Erha will give them at least a bit of an entrance spot, but it looks like Jiejie is committing to the recall, probably has Thunder Sky on base, and just says, you know what, we'll give up the second dragon, no big deal. We'll make a play off of our item spikes later.
It just feels a little too hard, I think, for Jiejie to play specifically, because even though you have, even if you had that item, like, you go in for an ult onto Viper, he flashes away, or manages to cleanse the follow-up CC from the Vi, and then on as well as the Tempered Fate to be able to block that ultimate. It's a really, really annoying interaction as Vi when you're dealing with Bard.
Chain of Corruptions goes wide, unfortunately for Weibo, and both BLG bot laners managed to just leave the scene of the crime. But as you were saying, Quax, I think a great demonstration of Bard interacting with Vi and denying any follow-up was that JDG BLG series. Credit to Vampire on the Bard, who kind of made BLG his son after multiple Tempered Fate attempt after BLG tried to overcommit on the Gala.
Vampire obviously not a rookie, but definitely a newer face, a less recognizable face. I'm gonna shut up real quick. Weibo might be walking into a trap here, but they're being very smart and very cautious about where they step. Xiaohu's not, though.
Oh, Xiaohu doesn't quite find the angle, and now forced to use the Emperor's Divide just to push them away, but doesn't find anything. Forced to flash over the wall. Knight will follow thanks to the magical journey. The quick flash from on for the Cosmic Binding Slow and the Empowered Room Prison. Knight will say, thank you very much, Tiger. I'll take that kill.
Yeah, a little bit of an overstep there from Xiaohu. Goes in, probably wanted to look for a shuffle to initiate a fight, but unfortunately goes short and doesn't want to commit the flash to fully try and shove them in, because he knows that BLG could just flash right back and respond, get themselves to safety under that tower. So does end up going down, does end up burning that summoner, and Knight crucially not having to expend his own flash to chase down that kill, that magical journey, allowing him to stick to the Azir. And so it will give a big advantage over to BLG for the time being.
Ooh, good moves by Viper, sidestepping the Zenith Blade and continuing to lay some poke in onto Erha with the Mystic Shot. He just eat in. Oh, okay, I take that back. That was a little aggressive. Forced to pop the cleanse and the flash at the cost of a Solar Flare and a Chain of Corruptions, but still, that is a dub going over to Weibo Gaming's bot lane, having expended both summoner spells off the Ezreal.
And now, I mean, Jiejie is looking at that Ezreal, licking his lips and saying, all right, I know who my next target's going to be, and On is going to have to use that Tempered Fate to try and bail out his ADC, which means that there might be one less engage tool available for BLG, depending on the circumstances of how this fight starts. As yeah, Jiejie is just camping in this bush, looking for Viper.
Did Jiejie mean to take the magical journey?
I'm gonna go toward no. You know, it happens, right? Like random misclicks happen. Have you know, we're both junglers, Mark. You play Hecarim, right? You've played Hecarim.
Yeah.
Has it happened to you where you're popping E and then you don't mean to like click on a minion, but you end up clicking on a minion anyway?
Yeah.
Happens to me all the time. I hate playing the champion because of that. And I feel like something similar probably befell Jiejie there with the Vi going through the portal.
You know what? He was probably trying to click towards Viper, but because On propped up the magical journey, it just caused him to be forced to take the E over the wall. So unfortunate, but also probably big brain play from On, is just saying, haha, gotcha. And Rift Herald now looks to be secured by BLG without any contest. The rest of Weibo are trying to swarm in fast. 4,000 HP. There's still time for Jiejie to get in there and change the fate of this Rift Herald. But as I say that, the rest of BLG step up and say, no, you're not allowed in this club. And Knight will now have the free passage to just realm warp over to the bot lane, knowing that there is no play to be made on the top side of the map.
Yeah, save the grubs. I mean, BLG have kind of had a monopoly over the neutral objective so far. Has been just absolutely roasts Zika. Hextrigger going to allow him to, you know, be a little bit more safe, but BLG going to be able to use that Herald likely in mid lane. I think with the 2 plates remaining, it probably kills right on charge, which means that Weibo are going to have to be extra cautious about pushing in that lane, making sure that the Herald threat isn't as relevant, which it certainly is going to be. If BLG can throw that in a lane, they can immediately move down to the river, and this could be sole point for them already, Rafa. So I think Weibo definitely want to try and contest this, but they might be delayed because they have to take care of Shelly first.
You heard it here, chat. The flowchart has been laid out for BLG's prospects. Go mid, Rift Herald, unlock mid lane turret, go get Dragon.
It's a classic.
Be on soul point. Bam. Clean play. And it would be one that would make many BLG fans very happy to see unfold in a methodical manner, since, like we said before, early leads are not the question. It's 4-on-3, so BLG definitely don't want to be the ones that rush in. Weibo Gaming are the ones forced to take up space and use their numbers advantage to make this happen. Bin now walks to mid lane, has Equalizer ready, already past level 13, so that Equalizer being ranked 2 is going to hurt a lot as long as they can get the lockdown prepped up for it. Tempered Fate goes wide. Elk sidesteps it. Bin is locked down by the Leona CC. Public execution on top. Bin flashes away to reposition. On is the first one to drop. Schwinn answers back. The Equalizer is great, but it's not that much damage coming through. Knight finally steps up and looks to turn it around, but Xiaohu is right on his tail. The flash from Elk looking for Schwinn as he flashes out of the piercing arrow's range, but Weibo Gaming have control, and they will deny the 3rd dragon away from BLG.
The three of the remaining members from BLG on blinking health bars can't contest this dragon. Weibo hold the line at mid. They look for their opportunity, and they manage to find it. They get the 3rd dragon, deny that soul point, and BLG not able to cleanly execute on that macro play that we talked about.
Number Fate, as we called out, went wide, but Bin getting snagged here was not part of the game plan for BLG.
Yeah. He honestly survived a lot of damage. Like, that was a lot of pressure that he managed to absorb, but I feel like the counter punch here from BLG was just not as effective. Shun, crucially, gets taken down way too low. He can't continue the fight, has to burn his flash as well. And so BLG just without any real front line because they're all so low, or in On's case, they are dead. They aren't able to continue. Weibo reap the rewards because of that, though. BLG still, even though it's a bit late on the Herald charge, they do throw that in mid. They knock down that tower, and now they're going to extend their pressure down to the bot side, potentially onto Xiaohu.
Jiejie is here to cover his little tiger and make sure that he's not going down. Emperor's Divide? Does he not know that everyone else is here? Oh no, Xiaohu went for the play.
Good
the
flash.
Equalizer goes completely wide. Good flash
No
by
way.
Xiaohu, as you called. Zika with the public execution. Temper Fate will hold him into stasis. He cannot follow up. things looked incredibly dicey for both teams at various points, but it ends up with no one going down.
Yup. I mean, it started off rough there from Xiaohu, as now BLG are looking to go back in.
Going back in with the Realm Warp. Knight has a free access to Xiaohu on the right side. The rest of Weibo Gaming are forced off by the Crescent Guard. Xiaohu gets dropped. Erha will go next, and BLG try to rally around through Knight's rise. And just like that, Quacks, it's been a little bit messy, but BLG are tenacious, trying to push their advantage forward. Bin gets snagged by the Chain of Corruptions, but L gets dropped! He didn't have flash from the fight prior! Zika will trade on to Bin, but now there's no one else to defend this Mbessa from saving the turret, from saving his own life. They're juggling the turret aggro, but they finally take out the turret damage, and now there's nowhere else for Zika to run. He's trying to use his passive, and the Drake Hound stands to make his grand escape, but it only ends up being a one-way trip back to the fountain.
And right on cue there, we've coasted the 20-minute mark. BLG are up nearly 5,000 gold, Rafa. And this really is going to be the point where we put them to the test. This is the moment that has cursed them throughout the regular season. This timer right here, as we do get a replay. Xiaohu actually plays this pretty well. I mean, the flash to avoid the equalizer does a lot in allowing Zika to re-enter the fight, but some fancy footwork from Bin manages to keep himself alive. And then right here on top of the Realm Warp, it's also the teleport back from the Rumble. All of the BLG members descend onto Weibo, and it just doesn't feel like they have the health bars necessary to fight back. Not to mention, Varus is super late to rejoin this fight as we're going back to live.
I remember this spot was detrimental to BLG, but they're the ones that get the first trap sprung onto Xiaohu and Jiejie. And with a clean execution on both the jungle and mid lane, and the Baron is up, this could be a free Baron for BLG.
It absolutely is going to be, barring any crazy Gumiushi tier versus DRX level Baron steals. I do not think Weibo have a chance at being able to contest this. You can see Zika is on the bot side. We'll be able to get this turret, but it's a consolation prize at best right now, Rafa. BLG are running over this game with unrelenting aggression, and it's going to get a whole lot worse. All of them wearing purple. And now, I feel like this is the moment where when you have the Realm Warp, this can be where Knight specifically can be super deadly. Because if Weibo look to overload a side, they look to try and say, hey, they're split trying to 1-3-1 or trying to 4-1, we can immediately transport everybody over to join that fight, just like we did on the bot side.
Yeah, and it all started with just the ward on blue buff vision. Jiejie thought that he was securing just a quick camp here. Nope. That camp never belonged to you, unfortunately, and the rest of BLG were quick to spring. And the rest of Weibo Gaming now have to fight from a deficit, a massive one at that.
Yep.
Not saying, though, that it can't be done, Quacks. We know that BLG have thrown grander leads than this in the past with other opponents. And against Weibo, it is definitely not something out of the cards. But it's up to BLG to be the ones that decide game, set, and match from this point forward.
And the win condition of the Dragon now becoming a lot more relevant, because last time we were at the Drake as Elk. He's fine. Manages to walk out at the red carpet with just a scratch and maybe a bruise, but BLG gonna turn their eyes onto the Dragon and get themselves soul points. So Weibo, if it wasn't bad enough, now they're kind of on a timer to make things happen. You can see they're looking for a cross map onto this top side to try and get some gold into these carries that desperately need it, so that when the soul rolls around in about 5 minutes time, they'll be better prepared. But I feel like it is still super difficult because there's a lot of standing gold on the map. There's still all tier 2s currently alive, so BLG can collect those with the Baron empowered minions.
Yeah, and now BLG have full control of this bottom jungle quadrant at the cost of losing a little bit of their top side, but these are the consolation prizes they are happy to give over, considering that Weibo Gaming don't really have any other choice in trying to fight BLG head on. The second tier turret in the mid lane, not going to go down anytime soon, but it's just a matter of time before BLG eventually whittle it down.
Yep, the poke from Viper now being really relevant. He is on that 2-item spike. It's also just, I feel that Weibo, whenever they're looking for a lot of these engages, they look to kind of burst down one of these members, use that pick comp, right, to immediately take someone out of the fight, to burn them away, and then move on with a numbers advantage. But the problem is, there's a lot of health stackers on the side of BLG. We've seen multiple times how Bin is able to withstand that pressure. Now I think Viper is in a position where, especially with that cleanse up, he'll be able to do the same. Ooh,
Cosmic Binding into the Tempered Fate. Can they follow up, though? That is the question. The rest of Weibo Gaming all rally behind their backline to make sure that BLG cannot immediately jump on top of them. Solar Flare onto Knight. Cease and desist will follow up. The rest of BLG have to run. Emperor's Divide onto the golden left hand. He flashes to the right side. He makes it out alive. And Bin has teleported to the play. Knight's Realm Warp will reposition them on the left side, dodging out from Xiaohu's flank. And now BLG will run the rest of Weibo Gaming back to their second tier turret.
And BLG, another fight win now, will be able to take down that second tier turret that you mentioned, Rafa. And it felt like a little bit of a disjointed engage there from Weibo, because immediately when Jiejie casted his ultimate, you could see some of the members of WBG, they were like walking back. They weren't sure about going for that engage, but they had to commit. They had to go in. And Knight has Flash, he's got his Summoners, and he's so tanky at this point. He has a completed Roa, he has the Seraphs. There's so much defense on this Ryze's health bar. It's impossible to one-shot him at this point. And that has been, I think, the big thorn in Weibo's side. You can't get the one-shots off. You can't use the fullest effectiveness of your pick comp. BLG are able to look onto the rest of Weibo, who stack up to kill one member, aren't able to do so, and they clean house every single time.
And one thing I have noticed this entire game, Gavin, is that Elk has used his flash tool incredibly aggressively so many times. I think almost every flash has been one looking for the kill. And, you know, part of me wants to say that, yeah, I mean, they're just trying to look for a kill credit, a shutdown to get it. But the voices in my head are saying it's personal. Elk is looking for revenge.
You know, it's that, but also, I gotta respect Elk for, like, never using his flash defensively whatsoever. Those first two picks that BLG, rather, got onto Elk, he didn't flash either of those. First one was maybe valid. I think he understood that he was dead no matter what. The second one, though, it was a little bit questionable. So this guy says, you know, I go forward. I don't go back. I fight. I don't run. So I got to respect the commitment at this point, right?
He's trying to make this series a statement. And unfortunately, right now for Weibo, it's not a powerful one. It's a very weak one, if we're going to be quite honest. And for BLG, though, it is a hell of a statement. And if they're able to carry this momentum forward, Viper, Flash and a Cleanser available. The Temper Fate will stall this pick for now. Flash to the left. Arcane shifts backwards, and Schwinn makes the difference with the space. Knight is now the next target, but he cancels Jiejie's ulti with the stasis. Emperor's Divide doesn't push him all the way back. It was into the wall. He still goes down. Can Viper clean out this fight? Zika onto the backline, eliminates both carries, but Bin on, and Schwinn can still press the engage forward. And it's only their former teammate left alive on the side of Weibo Gaming. It might not be enough for BLG to push in for the end, but there is still a Baron to play for.
And unironically, Mark, that might have been Weibo's most successful engage this game so far, because they look onto Knight, Knight goes down. They look onto Viper initially, Viper goes down, but it's still a losing fight at the end of the day. 4 members of Weibo fall. BLG turn their eyes onto the Baron. It just goes to show how rough the team fights have been from the perspectives of WBG as we do get a replay. And again, Viper, these health stacking individuals on BLG are just so hard to take down. He flashes over, Arcane shifts up, and then manages to survive. And then Knight does the same thing. Beautiful Zhonya's to cancel, like you said. And it takes them so long, so many resources to take down these 2 members that the remaining 3 from BLG are able to just get free kills because nobody has any summoners or spells in general up to actually fight back on Weibo's side.
I'm really curious. You know what? We'll have to look at that replay another time because it looked kind of weird that Knight didn't get pushed all the way through with the Emperor's Divide, but
it was a little weird.
it was definitely strange, but at the end of the day, Weibo still knocked down Knight and gave him his first death of the game, and the result is still the same. BLG with a 9,000 gold advantage with Baron buff in hand. Mountain Soul on their side for the rest of the game. The odds are stacked in BLG's favor to close out game 1 with a dub.
Shorn is just going up with no fear, knowing that On and Knight and Bin, even though he's a little bit further, have his back and are able to reinforce him if things get a little bit dicey. That Baron buff is also still active, so they can continue the siege onto the outskirts of Weibo's base. I'm curious if there's going to be a trigger pull by either side, because I believe this Baron buff still has a minute and a half. So yeah, this turret is gone. If Weibo want to try and save their inhibitor, I feel like they're going to have to be the ones that pull the trigger, but we've seen it so many times, Rafa. It's really difficult to pull the trigger effectively against this BLG comp with how tanky even their backline is at this point.
Yep. No flash, no cleanse, no problem. Viper can still survive with an arcane shift and the items that he has gone for, giving him extra durability. I didn't see if he got the endless hunger yet, but if he does, I mean, the Omni-Man is so oppressive to deal with in a kit like this Ezreal. BLG have quickly done away with the inhibitor turret on the bot side. They move mid. Temper Fate does not land on the Weibo Gaming, but it does push them back momentarily. Get some procs onto the plate. Solar Flare onto Bin. Chain of Corruptions, but good use of the Mikhails from On to save his top laner from any follow-up. The next minion wave pushes in. The inhibitor turret should fall on this push. The bot inhibitor is also suspect to dying. Rest of BLG being very clean in their siege and methodical. The type of play that BLG fans want to see for this 2026 roster.
Yep, double inhibitor, and now you can see the wave in top is stacking, is pushing, so they're gonna look for a triple inhib. Weibo have to scramble to try and save that part, but look at the rest of the lanes. I mean, the minion wave is seeping in from the bot side. The mid lane wave is also pushed, and Bin has a flank.
The call is coming from inside the house. Bin with the equalizer cuts off their retreat path, and the rest of BLG can just swarm on in. Flamethrower turned up to 11 and burns down Erha, and the rest of BLG will put game 1 to rest, and they will now advance to match point in this series.
Elk waving hello to his former teammates from inside the base because he can do not much else. His old support gonna keep him company in the fountain with his dead body. BLG, a clean and surgical game, if I do say so myself, Rafa. A couple of hiccups here and there, but overall, I think, like you said, BLG fans definitely happy with how this win panned out.
Especially with how some of their losses against JDG in both times, as well as their loss against Top Esports, happened between this game 1 and how their series overall against IG. This is the rebound that BLG as an org, as a team, need to have going into Split 1 playoffs, because they're already guaranteed in Group of 7.
You're a little robotic. Are you an Autobot or a Decepticon? What side?
Autobots, move out. Give me 1 second. I'm going to reconnect. Carry on for me, Gavin.
I will. Hello, everyone. Yeah, overall, I feel like this game from BLG, you know, oftentimes I think this team can be a little bit, you kind of look at the parts more so than the sum, and I do think that this is a game where the sum of all the parts really came together, right? Who was the carry for BLG is oftentimes like something that I hear a lot of people discuss when it comes to when they actually win, whether Knight had a good game or Bin had a good game, or whether Viper had a good game, which is what a lot of people said in the IG win that they got just a little bit ago. But overall, I think that this win was a huge group effort. So I have to give like my kudos to every single member of BLG. I'm genuinely perplexed on who their player of the game is going to be.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think Bin had like the cleanest and clearest lane advantage without any jungle interference, other than the one visit topside, and even then, that was kind of a bit of an oopsie from BLG. I don't even know if stream can hear me or not. I've connected back to
Yes.
the camera, but I have yet to connect to my feed. I'm trying to connect now.
Well,
Doing it again, please. Okay, well, I'm trying again.
I mean, honestly, I might be prone to give it to Knight, because I feel like even though a lot of his rewards were,
Sure.
you know, from the efforts of all the other BLG members, like this guy got aggressed onto by Weibo, welcome back, by Weibo so many times and managed to live pretty much every single one. I say pretty much every single one because it wasn't all of them. He did die that one time, so yeah, Knight, you're just an absolute griefer, bro. What can I say? One death, come on, man.
And that was like Weibo Gaming throwing everything they had, and even like future investment plans too on top of it. They're saying, you know what, this savings, we don't need it. We need Knight to go down on this play. And for Weibo Gaming's credit, when you're down that much gold, you're kind of out of options. You got to do something at some point. You're not just gonna now. I would understand if Weibo would say to themselves, well, BLG have messed up in the past, so let's just wait for them to throw. But BLG are actively trying to be cleaner on the late game setup, how they close out these games post 20-25 minutes when they make these massive leads. It's been the main topic and concern for BLG ever since after the 4 series win streak into the 3 series loss slide.
Yeah,
that was the big criticism.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's now coming to a head where Weibo have kind of had the opposite trajectory, right? Lose 3 into win 3, essentially, and now are looking for their 4th. But I think the big issue was that they never really even felt like they were ever in a winning position this game, Rafa. I mean, immediately, I think that Xiaohu fell super far behind. Elk fell super far behind, dying twice almost immediately into the game. So a lot of the characters that we look at to go through and deal that damage really never had the opportunity to do so, because they really started the game off on the wrong foot. So just a more clean early game, I think, is honestly what is needed from Weibo. I think that this is a pretty uncharacteristic first 14 minutes from them, and I'm excited to see if they can do that in game number 2, because this is a series that last time, like we said, went the distance, and I'd love to see it go the distance again.
Yeah, I think Weibo were expecting their topside advantage and pressure to be what would offset the focus from BLG hammering in gank after gank against Elks Varus early on, and they couldn't offset it. Even with a little bit of the super aggressive invade from BLG that was kind of mistimed with the Realm Warp and Schwinn being a little late and ended up being a 1-for-1. Like, at the end of the day, BLG still had incredible control over objective setups, and Weibo never wanted to contest them, but they couldn't make effective cross-map plays either. I imagine that going into the second game, the first point that they are looking at fixing is give this brother Elk some help. Like, have Jiejie try and track Schwinn better, or at least match him on the path timers, because if they're not able to actually get Zika ahead with his time on the top side while Elk is getting railed, you got to bail out this bot lane then.
Yeah, I mean, Jiejie, he's not like necessarily, I believe that's his 4th game of Vi. And he's a 25% win rate on it now. So it's been a pretty, it hasn't been his greatest champion so far. And that's just because I feel like Jiejie operates so well on champions who can immediately hit the ground running, like the Jarvan, like the Pantheon, like the Xin Zhao. I feel like those are really his characters, not the champions like Vi, who are just more effective and want to wait until 6 to really go and be that aggressor.
Sure. Well, On ends up picking up player of the game.
Valid.
I think this was tough to really choose a single defining person. And look, even the LPL official broadcast was kind of torn. Some wanted to give it to Knight, but eventually ended up going over to On. And I think the early Cosmic Bindings and some of the Tempered Fates that were being used at least created windows for BLG either to extend their lead or prevent themselves from throwing it. So That's game one wrapped up in the books. And we have to remind everyone that this is a team in BLG that lost both of their series to JDG, but then JDG as a team lost both of their series to Weibo Gaming.
So by transitive property, you know,
you would expect that Weibo Gaming should have the advantage over BLG,
Exactly.
but BLG did beat them in the last time, or their last series, and BLG are now 1-0 against Weibo. So BLG, the question is, can these guys cleanly execute a game 2 similar to how game 1 panned out, or will Weibo Gaming turn it around? We're going to find out on the other side of this break.